Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here and fantastic to be able to do an update on the David and Neil situation. Well, things have really gone, as you would say, a little bit awry because Neo today or later last night was actually arrested for failing to appear. Yes, you heard it. He failed to appear. I think it's just a contempt of court. Doesn't look like he's been arrested for anything else. Just merely contempt of court. I watched most of the videos and it looks like he was at his mother's in the US Marshals. 5 amazing men going to arrest him. So that was good. And then took him directly, for those of you who don't know, they took him directly to appear before, I think it was the grand hearing. But basically, he's now being bailed or bond. So excellent. And it was 60 grand. That's not cheap, not cheap as chips, you would say here in the UK. So he's out. He's been bailed. He's out. And he's out doing what he needs to do, which is great. Hello, Tamara. Can't hear more about this Celeste Rivas Hernandez case, who's the innocent victim in this case. And Tamara says, thank you for providing insight. It is a very disturbing situation. Absolutely, Tamara. You nailed it on their head. That's for sure. So without further ado, one is I've taken a really good look at Neo, and I've done a lot of the oral messages, but also I did have a look at what is the energy between Neo and so unusual little video because one's very different with Neo is he has in his energy body, he has a huge dragon. Now, I'm not sure whether this is a dragon that's going to bring justice. Hi, Hot Pocket. I'm not sure whether it's a dragon that's going to provide insight or that's going to assist things with his path of destiny. It's a dragon. That's what I saw is the dragon. So I think the dragon that he arrived with is a bit different. And that dragon that was part and parcel of his, what you would call his entry into this world, which is through the mother's portal, which is the womb. That particular dragon that you'll see in a minute, that's the dragon that is part and parcel of his way forward. So that's quite an interesting one because, sometimes the dragons will bring truth, honesty, and awareness to what is actually happening. So just apologize for the signal. We've got awful weather over here in the UK. It's snowy, blizzard conditions, really cold. And it looks like it's one of those things where you've got a bit of an issue trying to be able to get the signal bouncing off the clouds. So bear with me. I'm doing this I can, apart from it and saying nope. And Nazy155, hi everyone, 3 days ago, 88, Neo. Whoa, very interesting. 88, of course, is a very, very lucky number. 2 sets of 8, lots of synchronicity, and most certainly gives you a lucky streak going forward because it creates balance. So I'm going to quickly share the video. Hopefully it works. Nope, it's not working. Hold on, let me do it this way. So I'm going to add this image quickly and go through some of the reviews. So this particular image here, this shows the Neo imagery. What I found incredibly interesting was the two difference. So he did auric field, which does move very, very sharply and very strong. All of them are, and it does show that he has a great connection to his ancestors and a very good connection to his individuals that are around him. And that was quite it was quite a promising energy value too, because it seems like he has beings and energy. Now, if you have a look on this particular one, on each side, there are two beings of light. So I think good, because it means that they're trying to get through to him, his guides and individuals that are with him, as well as his ancestors. You can see on the right-hand side of the image there, you have a very large Asian family, and they're all standing behind him. They're all helping him and trying really hard to make a difference. Two energetic beings are there, and I think energetic beings are the ones that are going to make the big difference to Maya. He is going to be pressurized the truth, even look on his neck here, the blue. It's all in a way close to his energy around his neck, so that which does show that he has this unusual swirling that goes around and around, which is quite interesting too. Anything else open other than StreamYard? So whatever's interfering with the signal. It could also be, of course, that the powers that be and the energies that are out there don't really want any of this information to get out. So, this could be what's happening. Could be that, yeah, I've only got this open. I haven't got anything else open anywhere else. So that's, let's just hope let's hope it plays ball. So come on, energies, play ball. We've got things to say here. So this energy with him, you got the center of the chakra, so right in the middle of his chest. Young lad, because he's only 23. So for me, at my age, he's a young lad. This young lad has really fallen heavily in love with someone. He really has given his heart. He's really just one of those that, he just wants to be in love. And he's feeling very strongly about certain individuals. You also get that bright green. Have a look at the bright green that's just above the top of the pink. And that tells us that it's difficult to deal with those emotions. So you've got that happening within all the way around that egg-shaped toroidal field. It's showing a very strong energy. So this young lad, he is definitely finding it hard to keep his feelings to himself. He's very irritated. That's why you've got the red. Plus, because it's swirling and moving forward and backwards. Not a happy chicken. Not at all. Very annoyed about the situation. The red on the hedgehog, if you like, it looks like a hedgehog, but it says, and it's come out of his hand. It's coming from him, where he is specifically annoyed. He really is. So that gives us one aspect of what I had seen around top of his head. He has this unusual energy that's flowing backwards and forwards, that there is a possibility that he may be thinking about how he can talk about what he knows, what he's seen. And I think that is when I did this particular image, that was this morning. So I think it was before he was taken to give evidence or be questioned, that at top of his head, that for him, and he might need to talk about, where he's going, what he's doing, what he's done, so that he can keep himself in the clear. So I'm just putting it back on so you can see that that particular image at the top is very specific. So I'm going to go to the next image. Hopefully this works. Going to add that image in for us. They really don't want me to talk about this, do they? That's very interesting. So here we go. The next images should be coming up any minute. There we go. Now this one is the Montana Plains. And once again, we see him as the young lad, but we also see that there's lots of guides and energy beings behind him. And this is where there is a lot of difference. There's different types of individuals, and there are those that are trying really hard to make a difference, to make him speak about what he needs to speak about. And I'm going to draw your attention here to the change, because this one was after the first one that I did. So you can see he's not as frustrated and as annoyed as he was previously earlier in the morning. He's now at a point where this energy around his neck, this very large donut shape that's around his neck, this tells me that whatever the questions are that he is being asked, he's answering these questions. So there's aspects that are coming out of him, being part of him. He's able to share everything that he needs to say and how he needs to say it. It's all happening. So if you remember from the previous image, it was closed. It had the blue area which closed him off. Now we see the donut shape. We see that it's light, it's lighter, it's brighter. He's actually saying what he needs to say. We've also got, if you look at the top of his head, from the top chakra and also from the third eye, all the way around, you've got this very large energy value, which says he's connecting to his ancestors, he's connecting to his inner dragon, and he's connecting to what he feels he should be doing and how he should be doing it. So that is quite a difficult situation to be in. Because if this young man, because he's 23 years old, I'm calling him a young man, if this young man decides to talk about what he knows, what he's seen, how he feels, and actually becomes a full-blown witness, I think these individual guides and spirits that are behind him, that are helping him and trying to getting him to do what is right, I think that is going to be a key game changer. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at how he would feel, because it is key. This image here was the last image that I did before I had the download about the dragon that is walking with him, and that's been part of him since he was in the portal, the womb, where he came through his mother's energy. So this particular one, you can see behind him, he has all of his ancestors. And I think he's very familial, and he's very family orientated. And I think that the last person that he would want to make embarrassed about him or his actions, or embarrass all those ancestors that you can see behind him, he does not want to embarrass or shame these individuals. So his energy has changed. You can see at the top of his head, from the top chakra point and all the way around him and around his head, that energy is coming out and it's moving in a sideways, backwards and forwards motion, which tells me that there is a connection with his ancestors. He does know what he should be doing. I see Tammy is saying, my ancestors have been very noisy today. Yep, and I'm pretty sure that Neo's ancestors have been pretty noisy with him too. And because he was staying with his mother in Montana when he was picked up by the US Marshals and the other police individuals, yes, he will be, I'm sure that those that are very close to him would have said something about, where are you going with this? What are you doing? Consider your future. Consider, your ancestors are watching. All of this will be part of it, because his energy changes. If you see the energy around his hands, there are these two spiky areas that are part and parcel of what is coming off his hands. So it's changed from the first image when I first started looking at him this morning to what I saw at the end of the day, just before we're getting ready to go live. This was the last image that I put together with all of his ancestors, but very importantly, we see again those two light beings on either side. So they are trying to push. And yes, the veil is very thin now, which is what all this interference is. We've got the largest solar storm that's happened with the energetics that is going on, the biggest one in the last 20 years. So I'm not surprised if everybody here, particularly those in the chat, if you've been experiencing nausea, if you've been not able to sleep and just been on hyper alert, if you found that you're not able to eat too much because your stomach is in knot, that's all due to all of the issues with the solar flares and all of the issues with the electromagnetic field across the earth changing, because it's very, very high at the moment. And because we are mostly water, it will affect us. So this man is going through a transition within himself. If you have a look at the throat, you can see now the blue areas are there. So he has spoken his truth. He has spoken his piece, but, and this is a big but, I think he's also at some point, my prediction on this is that he may plead the Fifth Amendment. And the reason that he would do that is because some of the Fifth, it's very possible. In the middle of his heart, a large rounded area where he's thinking about what would be right for him. What could he do where he can perhaps walk the middle lines? So maybe not go ahead everything that he needs to say, but keep both parties, or all parties in this case, safe and but happy with the level of what would you call it, activity, communication, and with whatever he is saying. And I think that he's trying really hard to walk a straight line and keep everyone happy. I don't think he's going to be able to do that for very long. And that's because there's too many eyes on him. That's the ancestors at the back. There's too many eyes on him. Plus, you've got these two almost angelic beings of light, that are watching over him to try to impress upon him to do the right thing. Because after all, this was a minor that was, unalived. It's a very, very tragic case. And anything that he knows, really, this is what those two beings of light are trying to do. They're trying to, impress upon him. You've got to not just think about your day to day, but you've got to think about your soul and what is going to be right for you going forward. So it's a very difficult, it really is a very, very difficult path to be walking. So if you've got any questions about that, then please do let me know and put them in the chat. Once again, we're going back to what the changes were. And we're going to put this particular one. Hopefully it plays, and it doesn't want to play. So I'm hoping that it will. Maybe. So when I was looking at him, especially the energies behind the dragon with him is showing him to be extremely forward going, but also very cautious. And anyone who knows about dragons and mythical creatures and other things, dragons are very careful. That extremely careful about what he says, how he says it, and particularly how he's going to utilize that energy going forward, because it's not a situation. He's taking it very well. If he says too much and he says something in the wrong way, he's going to cause an enemy for any of the individuals that are there. I'm going to also put up part of these that we know around him. If I can get that to work, to be able to things is to please the fifth. So I think that whatever, he very definitely was the person that had his say, but closed off and said, nope, I'm not saying anything more about this. I do think also he mentioned a woman. I'm not sure who that woman is, but that woman has got a lot of information about the David individual. And I think that has also and is coming through very strongly. I think that there's a lot, the energy that's coming through from these individuals, it is significant. It really is. And when we look at the very first image that I put forward, we know that he's very annoyed and he's under a lot of pressure. And those first energies, I can imagine this morning, UK time and also American time, would have been, he was not particularly happy he was going. I don't think he was particularly happy about that at all. So expect him to come out with unusual aspects, because he's going to. He has got some of the greatest pressure that I've seen in a very long time, because not only has he got these beautiful beings that are on either side of him, flanked beside him, he's also got his ancestors, plus he's also got a lot of other individuals, people from the Reddit community. He's got people that were on other, like the Discord community where David was talking and where the victim was talking. There is a lot of interference, and there's a lot of information that's being bandied backwards and forwards. So Islands of Blue is saying, is there a spiritual defense that keeps him out of compromising situations? His energy feels strong but cunning. Yeah, I would agree with that, Islands of Blue. Yeah, I would. There is a level of spiritual defense. I do think because he has the dragon, I think that that's helping him. And I also think that the energy around him, there is somebody else helping him as well. And I'm just hoping that now that he's been bailed, or he's been out on bond of $60,000, I'm just hoping that whoever it is that's his spiritual mentor, or whoever it is that's giving him advice on spiritual nature, I'm hoping that they will be able to say to him, actually, it's no point in you being cunning right now. It's better for you to up your spiritual defense and do what is right, because eventually those that are going to be implicated in this case will have a lot to say. I think there's going to be a lot of he said, she said, they said, this one, that. There's going to be a lot of finger pointing. I see it for sure. Lots of finger pointing. He does have the opportunity to make good. If he doesn't go down that route, we've got the two different paths, because everything is free will, as we know. And this young man has got the opportunity to go either way. This is why we've got the blue energy on one side and the red energy on the other. We've got two totally different paths. And at this stage, he's at a crossroads. Total crossroads. Yay, nah, 8. If I'm not lucky enough to win an aura pick reading from Bev's giveaway, can I book one? Can I book one via a website or send an email? Yes, of course you can. By all means, they are on my website. So just, it's at the bottom there, Awakening Academy. Go in there and get your reading. And then what I'll do is I will need a photograph. And that's the same for all individuals that are entering the giveaway. When you enter the giveaway, if you do win, then I will be emailing you and asking you for a photograph so that I can work from the photograph. It'd take me at least a couple of days to be able to tune in, have a look at it, create the image for you, and then make contact with you and do a half an hour or 45-minute session, which is all part of the giveaway, and explain what's in your aura. It's always very exciting. It's lots of fun. It's lots of fun. And the good thing is, all of the individuals that I've done these images for, some have put them on mugs, others have printed them out as a photograph, others have put them on their mobile phones, on their cell phones, and some have even, I've seen one or two which have come out really well. Some of them have put them onto a big canvas, and they either keep it in the lounge, or they keep it in their office, or they keep it close to them so that they can be reminded of where they're at. So there's lots that you can do with a digital image. So it's something that can do you a lot of good to keep a check on yourself. Where is your spiritual energy body, your vibration at? And also what's very nice to know is I also then pick up ancestors, those that have gone before you. And sometimes, if we're really lucky, we also get some of the animals occasionally. Cultural background, Rosebud Amy. Cultural background of Neo is he's a very handsome chap. Cultural background, from what I understand, so that's why in his auric field he has his ancestors, and he is worried about what they would be thinking, because I can guarantee you nobody wants to pee off the ancestors. Absolutely not. And nobody wants to make them feel that you're not good enough or of the dragon. So it's in a protective environment, and the dragon is trying very hard to protect his ward. You can also see in this image with this is one of Neo and David, and they both have a swirling energy, and they also both have the energies where they are attached to the earth. So they are very attached to the earth. They're trying very hard to wade their way through all of the issues just now. Charlene, whoever's stopping Bev get a message out, she has the means to find you. Yes, Charles, I love it. That's awesome. Cheers, mate. That's brilliant. So, yeah, I'll say dragon to bite your bottom. How about that? So, that tickled me. That really did. So, the dragon is there. It is a fire-breathing dragon. It's a red dragon. So, I think it's a fire-type dragon. What is very interesting about both of these men is that the energies around the third eye are very pronounced, and they're extremely busy with getting those energies. So it always tells me when that energy is so rife, there are forces at work. There is something that has happened with these two men, and it is very, very difficult for them because they've been activated. They have very strong auras, very strong energies, but they are being manipulated, hook, line, and sinker. So Lulabelle 111 is saying, freaky, seeing a red dragon. Yeah, I saw a small one just before I went to sleep. Its belly glowed red. So there exists. Do some. This one's a biggie. This one's a big one. It's a male dragon, and for Neo. And I think that this is quite. It's an historical thing, because that dragon has been with Neo for quite a few lifetimes. So it's no surprise that this dragon is trying to protect him in this lifetime. It's a very decisions to make. It is possible with the duality, with the two different sides, and with the fire aspect from the dragon's feet, from the paws of the dragon. It is possible that the decisions that he is going to have to make is going to happen both over this weekend and by the end of next week. I keep getting a date of the 26th of February. Now, I don't know why that's key and how Neo plays into that. But you can see by his hands, he's got that big red energy around his hands. There is something that he is a key witness to. Whether he says anything about it, so hopefully that energy combines and a blue energy together as one. It becomes mauve, or it becomes purple, or it becomes a really strong, almost like iridescent purpley color, depending on what level the blue is. Then there is a way in which they would be able to get the truth out, but also stand back from whatever was happening. I do think also with some of the energies that are around them, which tells us that we've got energy values, we've got orbs, and we've got truth bombs. So the truth bombs, I think they've offboarded him. I don't think he's part of that anymore. I doubt it very much. I think that he's definitely going to have to understand that he will more than likely be indicted by the grand jury in the Celeste Rivas unaliving situation. Also, one thing that I did look for, I was having a look to see whether or not the label has pulled any of his songs, and they have. They're very quietly beavering in the background. They've pulled the song called Madden. That's also now gone. And I think also we've got an energy of witnesses. And I am telling you right now, this minute, before the end of this month, being January, before it becomes even February, witnesses are going to be arrested. Reason for that is because we've had Neo, who basically was in contempt of court. He didn't want to pitch up. He disappeared to his mum's place in Montana, and they had to send, the old Bill, in other words, the coppers, behind him to go and get him. So that was a lesson to them that particular witnesses will not cooperate. Mark my words, you heard it here first. There are some witnesses that are going to be kicking and screaming. Seriously. They are going to turn around and say, nope, not only no, but hell no, I'm not doing this. I'm not saying it. The only way they can get out of it is to plead the fifth. And I think some of them will. But mark my words, there's going to be more arrests, not because they found someone who, was the perpetrator, but because they just don't want to appear. They don't want to go to the grand jury. They don't want to go and say what they need to say. They just want all this to go away. And I think one of the other people that's going to be called is going to be David's ex-girlfriend. I think that I see her very clearly being pulled into all this. She's going to have to, as much as she says, I don't want to be part of this. I was just dating him from when I was 16 and all those aspects. There is no way, absolutely no way that she's going to be able to get away with that. They are going to call her. They're going to call all sorts of people. And I will say there's more than an 80% chance that David will be indicted by the grand jury. You can mark my words. It's going to happen. So it's a very unusual plot that is thickening right now. And I think I was very pleased to be able to see the uncooperative witness being Neo, and watch some of the footage of the police going and fetching him out of his mum's house, which was quite interesting. Also, I think it's very interesting too for me that the deputy DA in this case in LA has had like a little secret discussion with Evan Jennings, who is the one that I think she is representing David at the moment. And it's going to be quite an interesting aspect, because I think people are pussyfooting and standing aside and doing all sorts of things. But the testifying individuals, there's a lot of witnesses. But there's also a lot of witnesses that just do not want to say too much. So, and I think that Evan, she's going to have to call individuals like she's also I think she has agreed to represent Robert Morgenthau Jr., who was the manager of David. And I think from what I understand, she has agreed that she's going to represent him as well. Also, there's a couple of female witnesses. Now, I think the female witness, and obviously if we get to know who the female witness is, if that's confirmed, at the moment it's just allegedly and speculation. But I think that, she's going to have to bring these female witnesses in, because most of them have been a no-show. And I think also there was one witness that was in Japan. So she came back to the country voluntarily of her own free will. So there's that's happening. So they do have some individuals that have already been taken before the grand jury. One of the female witnesses took 3 days to answer questions. So it's going to be quite telling when we get to see who it is, when we eventually get to know which one of the ladies took 3 days to speak to the grand jury. And I think the other aspect that I want to bring attention to is the energetics behind the car, the Tesla, and the energy around the fact that the timeline shows, and this is a lot to do with the Reddit investigation teams, is that David had moved, or somebody for David had moved the Tesla literally just before David went on tour. So the car was moved and then he beetled off, and disappeared and went on tour. So that's an interesting fact. I'm not sure whether anyone knew about it, but it's a very interesting fact too. So also the managers that were looking after David, they were both, and he was tipped to be a fantastic new writer, new person that's going to be appearing and do some amazing things. They were both hugely involved with David's life. And I think they did write down, and they did have all of the texts, and they knew where he was, what he was doing, how he was doing it. But there were specific days that they didn't exactly know where he was and what he was doing. So the day-to-day manager, apart from Josh Marshall, he's the founder of Mogul Vision, and one of the others as well was there too. That person, I don't know if you remember, but Josh Marshall was the one who signed the lease on the house that David was living in. That was where the home was searched, obviously, and that was the search after the mortal remains of the victim was found. So, the way that the house is a very important piece of the puzzle, because the energies that are in the house are very specific. And I think that they're going to find out a lot later too. So, there's a tour company as well that's all part of it. So there's a lot of toing and froing. There's a lot of, water bottle cooler hallway discussion where they're having this to and fro. There's a lot of individuals that find the certain prosecutor that's taking it to the grand jury and trying to get an indictment, that was a very pushy person. And I think that this is all going to come to a head next week. What I will say here is that I'm pretty sure that the spirit of the victim would like justice. And I'm quite sure that in the fullness of time, there will be justice. Because I think that it's going to become very obvious over the next couple of months exactly who was responsible for her being unalived. The other aspect I think that you're going to find, because I think last week I had a look at excuse me, Celeste Rivas, and what I found odd was that she was almost like frozen, and that's why the COD, so in other words cause of death, was undetermined. So, and the coroner's report has been sealed. Job done. So we can only speculate. But at this stage, it's likely or alleged that her body and her mortal remains had been partially frozen. What was also something that was really telling, there was a freezer that was rented at the last minute by David. Hello, and yet now we think that the remains were frozen. Everything is starting to make sense, and we just want everyone to take all of the breadcrumbs and line it all up and have a look and say, right, this is what we've got. This is what we think is happening. So I'm hoping that the medical examiner and the coroner of the County of Los Angeles, I'm really hoping that they're going to be able to say, this is what we believe. We believe that her remains were partially frozen. And I'm hoping that they go to that freezer and go and have a look and do a couple of swabs to see whether there was anything in there that remotely showed that there was an individual that was inside there, as well as any of the dismemberment items might have been in that freezer. So why on earth would somebody go and hire a freezer in the minute, literally a day or two, or even more or less the same week as when she disappeared? It's all a bit dodgy. Seriously, it's all a bit dodgy. And I think you've also got, I think there will be, I don't think there has been, but I think, everybody's got these ring go sort of, what do they call them? These bell things at their doors. And I do see them with the energies. I think that there's going to be surveillance videos, and there's going to be these ring doorbell videos all the way around different areas. And I think that David is going to be pitching up in some of those. So that in itself is going to be quite telling, especially if he's shown to be there. It's going to be a lot of very difficult questions, extremely difficult. And it was a very big freezer, very, very big freezer. So it's possible, it is possible, not probable, it's alleged that the coroner did find that the tissue had been frozen. So mark my words, later on, when all the facts come out, take a note of today's date, 24th of January, 2026, and go back and see what I've been saying, and see what I've been saying about Neo, and also my prediction about the 26th, because there is a lot that's going to be riding on energetics and changes to the energy around these individuals. There's videos that are going to come out. There's this the appliance, so the freezer, that's going to come out. And if you have a look at some of the boxes and aspects where he was sharing getting this particular freezer, removing the storage basket, there's video footage that is resurfaced of him taking out the storage basket in the convertible chest freezer, because it's one of those that you open the top and push it down. We're not sure. Of course, it's alleged that maybe this freezer could be connected to the case. It might not be at all. But I'm pretty sure that somebody somewhere is going to start looking in all the right places. And I think that there will be a second suspect that will be brought forward. There are definitely those that have come up with some ideas of who could be the culprit. But I do think it's not just one person. Absolutely not. There's going to be one lead individual, and then there'll be one or two others that will have had a hand in what has happened to this very young girl. So I hope that you've enjoyed the interpretation, and I hope that you've enjoyed what I've been able to share with everyone so far. Because it is a difficult situation, and it's not particularly nice because there is a very young girl that has been unallowed. I'm trying to be as respectful as possible by not maybe using her name and just mentioning her as the victim, so that we can move on. If there's any news or any changes or a new person, which I think will, there's a new person, I will be doing exactly the same thing. I'm going to be going in and watch this space, and if you've put your name in the chat, we have written down. So when we do the draw, which will be on the 10th of February, I'm glad it's a bit different. Can never be the same with me. For sure. I look at things are very strange, but you know what? It's good. Just sure that show, even though I didn't. So Neo is the best friend, and pictures of him online of, you know, sitting with David and, you know, doing all sorts of fun things together. And he was then, because he didn't pitch up contempt, so basically they sent the roses after him and they got him, picked him. Whatever happens going forward, this one is going to be a very, very bumpy ride. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for the chats and the comments, and thank you particularly for those who have entered the competition or the giveaway. It's not a competition really. I'm just going to draw randomly. If you're meant to have an image, you'll get one. Live, which is what this particular show plays. Thank you for being here with us, and don't forget to share. There's a video that I've done, and I do apologize. I was reading from a script. It's very obvious. It's very funny, but you know, you got to learn. You got to learn. I'm not professional at this. Anyway, bear with me. Sorry about this signal. This is how it goes. You know, when you're above again, I speak to everybody. Also, thank you to the mods too. Yeah, you know, from your mouth to God's ears, may Creator provide the justice for this young, for this young. Really. Stay with me.